All right, put in the national spotlight, the mayor of Mesa, Giles, a self-described lifelong Republican, not only endorsed Vice President Harris for the presidency, he spoke at the Democratic National Convention, obviously going to create some controversy with his Republican colleagues. He joins us now to talk about that endorsement. Mayor, it's good to talk to you again.
Good to be with you, Mike.
I'm curious about this, as I'm sure a lot of people are. Is this endorsement more about being anti-Trump in the sense that you think he's not qualified or able to do the job? Or are there certain policy issues that you agree with the vice president on, or is it a combination of the two?
It's absolutely a combination of the two. I have this debate with my friends and about this endorsement, and they always begin by saying, okay, we get that you don't like Trump, so let's just set that aside for the moment and let's talk about the issues. And I say, that's fine. I'm happy to have that conversation, but you have to, I can't get over the fact that Trump is an issue. Political extremism, I think, is our country's biggest challenge. And when we have a candidate that is this flawed, we can't, the insurrection, the criminal convictions, the civil judgments, the bragging about abusing women, all of the things that is Donald Trump, you can't just say, okay, we're going to set that aside and not treat that as one of the issues, because it is a primary issue. But then, like, as you say, in addition to that, I do think that people shouldn't just hold their nose and vote for Trump because Harris is not an acceptable alternative. In my experience as mayor, I've been the mayor through the Trump presidency and through the Biden presidency, and frankly for part of Obama's as well. So I think I'm in a good position to compare and contrast these administrations. Mr. Trump made a lot of he's great at making promises, as you know. I mean, all of our problems were going to be solved. We were going to have the best infrastructure in the world, and so infrastructure in particular. It was just a running joke in Washington, D.C. that, Infrastructure Week has been postponed. But under the Harris-Biden administration, we had some historic legislation, including the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act, the CHIPS Act, which Arizona is benefiting from in amazing ways. I can tell you, as mayor of Mesa, I'm going to ribbon cuttings and groundbreakings every week, and our economy is booming. And in large part tied to, again, some of these successful bipartisan legislation that has come through, not under the Obama administration. No, I'm sorry, not under the Trump administration, but under the Biden-Harris administration.
So let me interrupt, and I'd like to break it down just a little bit on those. So when it comes to the moral issues, and some of them you brought up are justified issues, but wouldn't you agree that neither party, and this is the argument I have with people, neither party has a corner on has the right to say that they are the moral purists? I mean, you have to admit that having Bill Clinton, after what happened in the White House with Bill Clinton, that isn't exactly saying that the moral compass of the Democratic Party is impeccable. And so at the same time, I agree with you that I understand people being upset, but there is moral decay on both sides.
Yeah, of course. And Bill Clinton is a great example. He should be held responsible for his moral failings. But I'm saying let's do the same thing to Donald Trump. You can't look the other way and say that this guy has any moral authority to lead our country and that we ought to take that right again.
Okay, and then and on the issues, I would say to you that in your city, I have used the city of Mesa as a shining example of what you can do with an economy, because you have done a great job in that city. But a lot of that, the Chamber of Commerce and working for the city of Mesa, Bill Jebginiak, and what they have done with the community development, locally you guys have done a great job. It isn't the CHIPS Act alone. Long before the CHIPS Act, Mesa was growing and enticing business here to Arizona, TSMC and others. We were doing this, but especially Mesa, long before the CHIPS Act.
Oh, absolutely. Mesa is an overnight success that's been decades in the making. But absolutely, infrastructure has been a big part of that, and there has been absolutely. You'd have to say. Let's take the Gateway Airport, for example. We've got a brand new control tower out there. We've got a brand new terminal out there. Those have specifically been as a result of the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act. Right now, out in the Gateway area, again, every week there are new companies that are opening shop, and they're tied to the supply chain of the semiconductor phenomenon that's happening that, again, is based on the CHIPS Act. So, yes, the perfect storm is occurring in Mesa, but we're getting a good dose of help from this recent legislation.
And see, I hope you understand. I'm not trying to change your mind. I'm trying to understand, because I'm sure you're getting questions from everywhere, and I appreciate you talking to the audience about it, because there are many people that are surprised that a Republican, they're not surprised that Republicans would vote for a Democrat, but they're surprised a little bit at the advocacy and the enthusiasm in the advocacy.
Sure. And we have to admit that our Republican Party is not healthy. And I think I feel that as mayor, I have tried desperately. You might not believe this, but over the last 10 years, I try at every opportunity to stay out of partisan issues, because when you're mayor, you get to work on the middle. I've got Republicans and Democrats on my city council, and we get along very, very well. And we work very well because we focus on solving problems, not on partisan issues. So it's the exception for me to take the bait to wander into these problematic waters and talk about partisan polarizing issues. But sometimes I feel like I'm compelled to do it, because I wouldn't be doing my job as mayor to be silent.
Well, Mayor, I appreciate the time. I know that you're getting hit and bombarded with questions from either side, and I'm sure a lot of the comments are not very friendly or nice. But I appreciate the conversation and the clarification, and I look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you for the invitation, Mike.
All right, that is Mayor John Giles of the city of Mesa with an explanation of why his advocacy. He says it's both a dislike and a belief that Donald Trump should never be president, along with some of the things he agrees with in the Biden-Harris administration. Maybe a bit of a clarification there.
Thanks for watching the Mike Broomhead Show. Catch up on Amazing Arizonans, a KTAR News podcast, and click the button in the middle to subscribe.